Welcome to Film Unit!
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Film Unit podcast. We're grateful for you to join us again. We're still talking about LGBTQ plus cinema, but for those of you who've just tuned in on this episode, or maybe have only just been sent this episode, we're an independent-run cinema in the basement of the University of Sheffield Student Union, and we will be opening whenever normality returns because we're just a group of people who really love films and love putting them on for the local population. We're volunteer run, so if you're in Sheffield and you're listening to this, please come get involved. We love volunteers. All of us are volunteers. We got in and then we wanted to stay because we love Film Unit that much, so I promise you also will love Film Unit that much. And if you want to message us at all about volunteering or about the stuff we say on this podcast, you can get in touch with us at Film Unit on Twitter and Instagram, and we're on Facebook, and you can email us at filmunit@sheffield.ac.uk. But without further ado, we should probably start talking about the reason people are listening, films. And before that, do you guys want to introduce yourselves again? Just for any listeners who don't know who you are.
Okay, so here are your regular hosts. Amasha.
I'm Jack. Together with...
Our lovely host Morgan.
Yeah, I'm still here, still talking to a mic about films that I definitely shouldn't have been watching instead of doing work.
Highly relatable content.
We're university students. We're based in a uni. Everyone knows that you use films and society to distract yourself from actual work. But that's the fun of university. So if you want to distract yourself, get involved with Film Unit.
It's so fun.
Yeah. If you did listen to last week's episode, we were mostly ranting about various films, but this week we're going to be talking about particularly gay films. So we're going through the letters. So we all have various films we want to talk about. So who wants to go first and introduce their ideas or suggestions?
So I could start. So basically, like most films that are about gay men usually rely on their stereotypes of like kind of twinkie men, and often you can like accuse them of kind of falling into kind of heteronormative tropes when someone is more feminine and the other person is more masculine. But there is also one trope that confuses the hell out of me. So we all, I think, know Brokeback Mountain, Jack Gyllenhaal and Heath Ledger cowboy gay film. It is like the American origin from which I think grew out the God's Own Country. It's a British film with the guy that plays Prince Charles in The Crown. And yeah, he's a Yorkshire farmer, and he hires an immigrant worker, and they fall in love. And it's quite cute. I really recommend that film. It's really good. And in both of those films, the gay romance happens from the aggression. And I have never, ever even heard a story from friend of a friend of people who discovered their sexuality that way. Because even if someone even like used to be a homophobe and then they realized they were gay, it never happens that way. And it's like the most risky way of starting your gay experience, because if the person didn't want to be kissed or even more, it's very much a harassment.
Yeah, there is, I must admit, you do see it a lot on TV shows these days of being like, the reason he's bullying the gay kid is because he's secretly gay and fancies him. It's like, no, that's not right. We shouldn't be promoting that as that's how you fall in love, by bullying.
Can you even imagine just like starting to fight with someone, realize there's a sexual tension, and then make out and start a successful relationship?
Yeah, I've never personally experienced that, nor have I ever heard anyone experience that in real life.
I think
whose fantasy is that?
Yeah, if you're angry enough to fight someone, they're generally not a... I mean, in my case, it's because they've, like, thrown something on us at, like, a night out and stuff like that, but you go, oh, I kind of want to fight someone, but you don't go, this is the start of a relationship, because you don't fight over just nothing, so it's clearly there's something about the two of you that you don't like in each other, so why would you then be like, yeah, this is clearly a great basis for a relationship? Or maybe some people do think that's a good basis, and maybe that's why we have so many divorces and breakups in a society.
Yeah. And it's even like different than enemies to lovers, because in enemies you would get that like psychological obsession, and in those films, also a film that follows that trope is a Georgian film, And Then We Danced, about Georgian ballet dancers. And they also start with like, they kind of like just bump, like elbow each other, and then they start fighting, and they also realize they have sexual tension. And it's just, especially like situational aggression, because many of them maybe not like each other, but just like coexist. And it's not like they hate each other, they just express their sexual desire for aggression.
But ballet is a very aggressive, like, I was just going to say sport, but I don't think it's sport. But growing up doing it,
I think it's a sport, and we just don't want to admit that.
It's a very intense, and because you're always competing for roles and stuff, I did not care that much, but you could tell there was constant competition between other people, because people would have operations on their feet on the Monday and be doing point work on the Friday, because you didn't want to miss out on getting stuff. So I can understand maybe the aggression in that film, because it's a very competitive environment. But
is this Black Swan you're talking about? What were you talking about?
Just ballet.
And Then We Danced.
All right,
as well. There's also a competition in that film. Also a really good film. And what international films?
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's one thing I miss about filming is because you would get shown international films that you wouldn't come across usually, and they're always really good. I don't know who finds them and who chooses them. I mean, we know it's us. Well, not me, but
it's literally us. It's like very much exactly the committee of Film Unit and anyone that bothers to turn up to the things. Like, just to be absolutely clear, but most of those are picked by Andre or Reese, who picks like 1 trillion films. And
Who's
then
Andre?
He's an ex chief house manager. Also the person that actually got me to run for my first position on Film Unit. So. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I did one fire officer training with him, and then literally that evening he said, "Do you know what? You should run for chief projectionist." It's like, but I can't project anything. He said, "I just do it." And I was like, and I didn't really get it at the time, but now I've got to that point. I know exactly what he's talking about. So it's like,
yeah. I must admit, Film Unit is very good at supporting people, because I was like, and people I knew were going for committee. They were like, "Oh, you should come along for the evening and vote for us." And then they were like, "You should go for a role." I'm like, "Well, I'm here. I might as well." And that's how I stumbled into this one. But so Film Unit is very good at pushing you out of your comfort zone into things that are really fun that you wouldn't usually know. And I am going to keep bigging up Film Unit because I think it deserves all the promotion it can get.
Yeah, I mean, like, Film Unit is easily the thing I've most enjoyed about university. Like, the people I've met there, the things I've done. It sounds really vague and actually kind of violent. But the things I've done, the regrets I've had, the people I've killed. It's all
for legal reasons that Jack committed no murders.
Hey, they spoiled the film for everyone coming in. They knew what was coming to them.
The opinions expressed by the people on the show are not the opinions expressed by Film Unit. It's just to be clear. Yeah.
But also, if someone is listening and they think, "Oh, they recommend Film Unit so much, I want to join," we will be having an AGM quite soon. So follow us on Facebook, because I think that's going to be the main stream of the information. So join us. We really want you to join us.
Weren't we talking about Brokeback Mountain?
Yeah, we were talking about Brokeback Mountain and fighting into gayness.
Isn't that what Fight Club's meant to be parodying? I remember seeing once like an essay about how the whole like masculine image and stuff, it's like meant to be almost like a wet dream fantasy.
I mean, that makes an awful lot of sense, because as I've told you before, like, I find Fight Club extremely homoerotic.
Oh, it is. It's so
unbelievably
homoerotic.
Gay. Like, it's great.
I actually like to pretend that the ending does not exist, and they just become a successful gay couple that runs a fight club.
See, I actually like to imagine the ending exists even harder, so that more people listen to the Pixies, but that's just me, because the Pixies are my favourite band. But
Pixies are good. So if you're listening to this, afterwards, listen to the Pixies.
Yes. Doolittle is one of the best albums ever made. Fight Me. Like the last 3 tracks of that, Sliver, Gouge Away, and I can't remember the other one. Fuck. Wow, that's bad. I'm gonna cry myself.
But anyway,
to sleep.
so
I can't
Aggression.
remember what it is. Oh, it's terrible. No, but anyway, this is one of the best 3 ending tracks of any album I've ever listened to. So if you haven't listened to that, listen to the Pixies. You know what I mean? Like, anyway.
But so I think the whole aggression and being gay is a thing that is even mocked in cinema through Fight Club. If we get some angry letters about that, I'm sorry, whoever is going to be running Film Unit's inbox. But I think.
But if someone is really angry, you can go on Anchor. Like, do you know? I forgot to tell you. Listeners can go on Anchor and record voice messages for us, so we could play them in the episodes in the future.
Oh my god, if you are listening to this and you want to send in a film and you want to give us a brief summary or you want to outwardly disagree with us, please send us a voice note or even just send us a message. We will reference it, we will bring it in, because Film Unit's about the whole community. Like, there's films I've seen that you guys won't have seen, there's films you've seen that I won't have seen. There's so many films are being made all the goddamn time. We don't have time to watch all of them. If you know a good film, please tell us so we don't have to sit through hours of trying to figure out what good film to watch. Okay, on to our next film. Jack, do you want to propose yours?
So,
hi, editing Asha here. In this bit, we spoil the fuck out of Pain and Glory by Pedro Almodovar. So if you'd rather not hear it, skip to minute 18. Bye.
I would like to talk about Pain and Glory because it's just
yeah, it's so good. Wait, it's directed by Pedro Almodovar. Yeah. Very good.
Also stars Antonio Banderas as like my favourite role I've ever seen. It's the best role I've seen him in. I like, I'm sure he's done other good roles somewhere, and I just haven't seen them. But my God, he's fucking amazing in this.
Yeah.
You know?
Although many people found the film really underwhelming, because I saw it at a film festival. And I was amazed because it's really fascinating. Like, it is underwhelming, but that's the beauty of it, because it's very organic to me. Like, it feels very lifelike. And he just like, he meets that person, he talks to that person, he does that little thing. But you can feel how much is going on for him personally at that time.
Like, the acting is phenomenal. In every scene, you can tell there's like a dozen things going on through his head, and he's thinking about. And so it's. I wouldn't say it's underwhelming, but I guess if you're going in expecting, like, it is called Pain and Glory, so if you're expecting some like big dramatic thing, you're not going to get it.
That was the idea of the film, and I was like, oh, that's an old man.
Yeah, but like, so I say maybe understated. You know, quite small. Feels much more naturalistic than it. But like, I liked that, you know, like, it even starts with this huge, weird, like, 3D animation thing, with, like, his various life and stuff, and then it kind of just zips around. But yeah, I thought, like, because it's kind of a spoiler saying it's a LGBT film, actually, now come to think of it. Yeah.
But it's such a good film, and because I saw it on, I think, on a streaming service. I didn't know, I was watching it just in my room, and I was like, this would be like a nice film to watch, and it sucked me in. Like, I was completely like hooked. It's such a good film, and it's just, you're right, it is very subtlety, it is very realistic. It's not got this like big dramatic ending, it's not got like all these big like dramatic moments, but I don't think all cinema needs to have big drama, because that's why you have like action movies if you want explosions every 3 minutes. Like, it's not setting out to do that, it's setting out to tell the story, and I forgot how much I love it. I'm glad you brought that up.
Like, I'd say it's probably my favourite film of that year. It was one of the last films I watched. I watched it at the BFI in South Bank, because it was my local cinema at that point. Well, it's a local cheap cinema. There was a fucking Curzon nearby, which is £15 a ticket. And honestly, fuck that.
Ouch.
But like, you know, like,
normally in Film Unit, you could watch 5 films for the same price. Doo-doo-doo.
Also, if you volunteer, you get it for free. If you usher, if you reject, if you fire officer, you don't even have to pay to watch these incredible films. In fact,
if you join committee, you get a free +1.
Yeah, and and to be clear, ushering, all that you have to do in that is stand next to a door and we don't even have tickets anymore. We're going to do digital tickets now, I think.
Oh my
That's what
God.
happened last time.
Probably, yeah. Although
So you don't
I
even
think
have to
I'm
rip
gonna
tickets,
miss...
you just have to... Pardon?
I think I'm gonna miss paper tickets. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I just have so many fond memories of competing with other ushers on ripping the tickets how quickly, and when I got really skilled at it, I would feel so powerful, and once I ripped like 5 or 6 tickets at once, and someone actually got impressed, and they were like, how
at once?
much strength?
Six is very thick. I mastered getting it to 3 without 10 tickets.
And they were all ripped properly and smoothly, and I was so proud of myself. Jesus.
See, as much as I think we're going to go digital, I think people like the paper tickets, because I still have, like, stubs and stuff from when I've, like, been to films, and people like memories, because people, I think, are naturally hoarders. I think we all like hoarding stuff for memories, especially people who love films. I have so many film tickets that are so faded from being in the sun that they basically do not stay in the film anymore. But...
Yeah.
Do I keep
Before joining Film Unit, when I got so many paper tickets, I actually have a diary from 2018. Well, I would just glue in all the tickets and write my reviews.
That's so wholesome.
I love that so much. That's so good. I'm now.
But anyway, Pain and Glory, Pain and Glory. Sorry to interrupt that, because Pain and Glory, it, like, honestly though, it was one of the last films I watched before the bad things happened, and but honestly, I didn't. I saw the good reviews and I saw the trailer at the BFI. Interestingly enough, if you're under 25, the BFI in South Bank also costs £3. So actually, we're getting like competed at by the BFI.
Oh wow!
Yeah, if someone is considering driving to London, if they live in Sheffield.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm glad more cinemas are reducing the price, because cinema should be accessible. That's the whole point, that it's the most accessible media.
Yeah, that's why LGBT films are important, because everyone should see themselves on the screens that we're able to afford to go see.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also Pain and Glory does a really good job at not making a big deal of it being a gay film.
Yeah.
It's absolutely natural, and I think Almodovar is actually straight.
Yes.
Yeah, so like I felt like he gets it.
I must admit,
somehow.
As we're going through the letters, I do have a couple of his films for other later on letters, because he is such a good filmmaker. I only discovered him this summer, and I've watched so many of his films.
Yeah, because movies supported his filmography a lot this year, because I've watched so many of his films, because they just did, this is gonna be a Pedro Almodovar year on movie, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna watch that, I'm just gonna watch that, and it's so good. Yeah. Especially Vulva, oh my god, not a gay film, but amazing.
Let's pretend that this was a good segue, and hey, so,
on the
Asher and or Morgan, do you want to bring up another film?
Well,
and pretend.
On the note we were saying about it, Pain and Glory not making a big thing about it being an LGBT film. On the other hand, Love, Simon, because when that came out, there was a lot of talk of being like, oh look, it's a gay film, it's a gay cinema, and but when you compare it to the other films we've been speaking about that have done a bit more subtly. It was very open about, like, it's a teenage film. Teenage films are very rarely subtle, no matter what they're about, because I think you can get away with, it's a movie for teens, we can slip anything in there, and the companies don't check, because they don't want to watch them films, so you can slip it in. But Love, Simon, I think, is a really important film, because I think there should be cheesy LGBT cinema alongside cheesy heteronormative cinema, because, again, everything should be equal, but it was very hyped up for being like this landmark film for cinema, and I don't know if it was as much. And also, it falls under the same thing of, again, it was another. It felt slightly heteronormative through Simon, because he was just. I don't know if that makes sense the way I phrase that.
It kind of does. It feels like the film is clearly a film. Like, I don't know if it actually is, but it almost feels like it's a film made by a straight person trying to imagine what it's like to be gay. If you know what I mean. And it also Pardon?
I don't know who directed it and if they are straight or not. But to be fair, to me, I actually wanted to point out that it's kind of good in representation that they meet online.
Yeah.
Because I think that the emergence of internet is actually the big part of the reason why so many people come out now. Because it's easier to find your community online, and when
That's
you
true.
feel that there is a community, it's easier to come out. And many people before just felt like they are the only alien queer in a big straight world, and they would be even surrounded by other queer people, but they will all be closeted, so no one would come out. And the internet helped a lot, and I know that many people got into their first relationships being queer, meeting the people online.
I'm almost annoyed that you actually made that a good point, because like the way that you said the way that the emergence of the internet, and I was like, oh yes, that old fangled thing. It's only just come around the last few years. It's like anyway, like so,
back in my years, another woman would have to dress up as a man, and they would be called best friends.
What?
You know how all like vintage lesbians, like one of them would be extremely butch. Yeah.
Or it's just like, they never married, they lived together for 50 years, they called each other love in letters, and they were buried in the same grave, but my god, what good friends. My god.
What
besties.
Really good friends. Like, wow. Like, that is an exceptional friendship. It's almost weird that they were just friends. And that's what they say in all the films. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, they just live together, spend their life together, eat together, go everywhere together, raise dogs together, have children together. Like, yeah, they were just such good friends. It's the power of friendship, guys.
Argue about milk, fucking like what they're gonna have for tea tonight. All of those things. It's sorry, but yeah. Like, sorry, yeah. Speaking of historically gay people in history, like, have you heard of The Imitation Game? It's a film. What did you guys think of it?
I remember bawling my eyes out on it, and a week later my mum saw it, and she just watched it with a straight face, and I actually got really angry. Like, how can you watch that film and not be absolutely sad? Because it's a tragic story.
It is a tragic story. It also does things for representation in ways that we haven't really spoken about. I did kind of speak about the last thing that we edited out, but like there aren't many films about like computer scientists being not incredibly nerdy weird people. They're all straight white guys that sit in a fucking basement and then just go hi ha 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 ha. I mean, there is a little bit of that sort of thing with The Imitation Game, but even so, like computer programmers, we're just like normal people except me. I am the stereotype, and I'm gonna fucking cling to that like no one's kind of the stereotype.
I would say you shower quite frequently, so you're still not the most stereotypical.
I love how you're like, I'd say you shower frequently, as if
you know.
Yeah, like I have no idea, but I just don't think of you and think like, oh, he doesn't shower that much.
Yes. But getting back to not the stereotype, because
get away from just insulting you, just to be like, yeah, you look like you shower.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. That's also kind of not really an insult. That's a sort of like a kind of like, no, it looks like you shower slightly more often than other programmers.
Yeah,
that doesn't necessarily mean I shower enough.
A big announcement. Jack Denny smells nice.
Jesus fuck.
I like how everything that disclaims like, yeah, they smell nice.
Well, yeah.
I don't know how we follow that up.
Well, programmers. Well, I don't think you can. But like speaking more about The Imitation Game, it's a great film. And it also, as well as having, a representation of someone else as a programmer, showing that they're not just a straight white guy that doesn't shower enough, apparently. That wasn't even one of the things I mentioned before, and you just brought it right back in, but okay, but that's fine. It also, it's a fucking heartbreaking story. I don't like Benedict Cumberbatch in anything. But it's
Ooh,
fucking
hot take.
gasp now. It's fine. I don't think it's that much of a hot take. Like, I think that the consensus on the internet is that he was great in Sherlock, and then he has played the same person in every film since then, including The Imitation Game. The Imitation Game just happens to have the script, but maybe I just don't like.
Yeah, but there's a lot of essays on the homoerotic subtext of the Sherlock Holmes books.
Let's not call it homoerotic subjects. Let's call it queer baiting, because that was clearly it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was saying with the book, because there's the books, there's the films. Because like Sherlock Holmes is a really famous character, but there's slightly different things. So like the books, the films, and then the TV show. The TV show has more issues than the books and stuff. But
yes, 100%. Because the TV show is really bad after season 2. So like I'd argue season 2 is also fairly crap as well. I'd say season 1's the only good season. Fight me. I just saw Morgan and Asher just absolutely cringe at that. So,
I have no opinion. I tried to watch Sherlock, but the episodes are film long.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch a film, full feature, and not watch how many seasons of Sherlock?
4? And
well, actually,
Christmas special?
Well, like, if you define, like, an episode of Sherlock as just something that's got Benedict Cumberbatch in for an hour and a half, then there's a lot more episodes of Sherlock. They just happen to be called Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like...
Wasn't it? I thought he was only in the one Star Trek film.
Yes, it's Star Trek 2 Enter Darkness, and it's horrible. It's just... It's a recreation of Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan, which is a good film, and also involves William Shatner going, Khan! Which is honestly very memeable, incredibly quotable. It's not, but it also has, but basically the same plot, which also involves in that film, like
if we start criticizing Hollywood for doing remakes at the moment, back on the Imitation Game, this episode is relevant this week because Alan Turing is being put on the £50 note from this week onwards.
Yay!
Which we absolutely love.
Yes.
He's such an important historical figure, and I think it's important that we put him on the note because he did do so much. He saved so many lives.
Yeah. I think that's my responsibility to mention that Alan Turing actually also based his work on work of Polish mathematicians. So we also contributed to stopping the war, okay? Sorry, but Polish people make a big deal out of it. And it's also good, because, as we spoke before, Jack, you wanted to say that not that many films about scientists. And I think that's due because we really like an individual hero story.
Yes.
And science work on building on other people, standing on the arms of giant, and working in a community. The whole idea of university is sharing the knowledge.
Yeah.
So they don't want to get into details that he referred to that paper and that inspired him and he read that and that and that and that and he probably was educated by by work of many other people because, that's too complex. We want a superhero.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to say about the Polish helping the war because they were part of the RAF, they were part of the SOE. They were very important to the war effort as well as to inspiring Alan Turing.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. I mean, Alan Turing did do things that he did get some of the shit he came up with is fairly fucking original. Like his Turing machines and stuff like that. The shit he does is still taught and is very much a part of the computer science curriculum even now. You know what I mean? And speaking of which, I didn't really get to talk about it very much before, but the fact that he's a computer scientist it just made it really important to me because there just there isn't much in the way of that, because you all see them as very very nerdy, very kind of that, and I am a bit of a stereotype in some ways, but in the ways of everyone's an individual. But on top of that, computer scientists as well as other kinds of scientists as well do so much, and we've just and they don't get films made about them, partly because like you said they need to have a hero instead of a group of people and stuff, but like, I kind of spoke about this before, but Dennis Ritchie invented the C programming language and also built the Unix operating system with Ken Thompson in the 60s and 70s and stuff. He died the same week as Steve Jobs, so no one ever found about it and stuff like that. And like everything that we do, the computers we're using to record this now, everything is written with C or a language that's derived from C, probably, unless it's for some reason you're running some kind of fucking weird recovery OS. It's just good to see like that kind of representation in that way, and not just because a lot of the time it just kind of feels like a lot of the work that computer scientists do just kind of gets immediately ignored by the wider public, but like the people that just happen to market themselves better just seem to get all of the credit for what like the kind of hardcore weirdos just that sit in a corner and do stuff like that do, and I just find that's really cool.
I'm going to use that as a springboard to segue into another film I want to mention, which is both historical and about the group efforts, Pride. It's a great British film, but it's about the miners' strikes and the bookshop that's based in it.
It's that film. It's on my watch list.
It's a good film. I would recommend it. And the bookshop that's based in it, you can now order from online through like stuff. So if you want to sport that bit of history that's even referenced in the film, feel free. It's Gaze the Word. Isn't that the name of the bookshop, if I'm remembering correctly?
I think so. It's near St Pancras, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's such a good film, and it's such an uplifting and warming film, and it's got such a nice message of like the group is what matters, and you're all individuals and you all have your own things, whether you're a minor, whether you're gay, but you can all come together and like help each other. And it's such a nice film. It's like colourful, it's pretty. It's got some like really deep heart-hitting moments, but it's also got some really funny moments, and it's such a good film. Just regardless of it just being LGBT cinema, it's just a good film. So
It's also set in Yorkshire. Am I correct?
This is where
the bookshop isn't in Yorkshire, I don't think.
The bookshop I think is in London.
It's by St Pancras, but
I think that's
it's in Manchester.
The bookshop I think is kind of the way equivalent. You know the documentary on Netflix, Book of Circus.
Yeah.
Circus of Books or something.
It's a Welsh village. It's a Welsh village. It's
not.
It's
Welsh village.
Yeah, I thought it was Wales. Just wanted to check. Sorry.
But also like representation of other accents in the UK. But
yeah. If you are listening in and you have films set in Britain with different accents that aren't the Southern accent, aren't traditional, send in recommendations. We'd actually really love to hear them and watch them. But back to Pride, because it's such a good film, and I think it's just no one I've seen it has disliked it. As far as I can tell, everyone I've ever seen who I know watched it has enjoyed it.
I've seen it 3 times and I cried every time. The bit. Like, there's just so many bits in it that it's just beautiful. Like, I don't know, it makes me like shiver just thinking about it. Not just because of anything else, not for any particular moment, but just for the vibe. It feels
but if I imagine correctly the vibe of the film, because I haven't seen it. Yeah, like I often feel in the film when people organize and they do something amazing, and you feel their group power.
Have you seen many like British comedy films? Because I think I don't know if it's just the one film I've been watching recently, but the generic. I think there's a certain like British film where it's like a light-hearted, heartwarming film. It has that vibe because there's a few ones that like aren't LGBT, so I won't mention them. But there's very much, I think. I don't know. It just feels very British, like a very like it feels like a cup of tea. That's how I could explain it to someone. The film feels like a cup of tea, and. God, I sound so British, don't I?
Yeah. It's kind of like a really warm hug from a whole bunch of people, while at the same time, fucking small town boys playing in the background, and it's at a fucking rave at the same time. It's like it's like a really drunk hug in a very wholesome way between lots of people, and but it's also an incredible night out. Like there's a lot to love in this film. Like fucking hell, the soundtrack. My God, it's just great. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, it's also got Bill Nighy in it. I'm a fan.
Oh
yeah, he's so good.
It's such a good film. So if you haven't watched it, just go watch it, listeners. It's such a good film. It is.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it this week.
Fucking do it! I dare you! I double dare you! Do it! Fuck it, yeah, sorry.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just before we go into, I guess, closing remarks, I'm going to squeeze in one film. It's not a gay film. It's got LGBT representation in. 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Because that makes me cry every single time. Well, if we say the funeral scene, does that spoil it?
It does say in the fucking
it's
title.
Very important. Especially, they are not very stereotypical, and they are, just there. But also the film understands that this is a very, very common problem for queer couples. That the funeral suddenly gets very problematic, because the other person is not there to fight their family.
See, the way you're saying it sounds like a boxing match. But fight your family, just getting clobbering up grandma. You know what I mean?
And the poem that's read every time I see it or hear it, it just gets me. It's like Stop All the Clocks. I think it's
what poem is that?
It's called Funeral Blues, and it's by W.H. Auden, who, if I remember correctly from my undergraduate degree, the essays, he himself was gay, or at least wrote a lot of gay poetry and was friends with a lot of gay people in the 30s. So it's a well-chosen poem, but he does a lot of really haunting poetry. But Stop the Clocks by W.H. Auden is heartbreaking, and they put it into this film, and it tears your heart out. And but what I like about the film is that they don't make it a big thing, like this couple. It's that was a couple, they loved each other, but it's not oh look, this is the gay couple here. It's not, they don't make a big scene about it. It's no, that's just what people are like, and they're both characters have really fleshed out outside of the relationship, so you see who they are individually as well, which I think sometimes in cinema you get the gay best friend, and they are just the stereotype. You don't see much else around them. But this film,
but they are very individual.
Yeah, and I would want to be friends with both of them, because they just seem like people you'd want to hang out with. They are just wonderful, wonderful characters.
Yeah, actually, there's so much to tell about it, because they don't really explain how they met, and there's a big age gap between them. And they probably have a very interesting background. They have a full-grown world of their own, which we never get to explore.
If Hollywood is listening, I'll accept a remake of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, but it's just about that relationship.
Don't be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. Do you know what I mean? Don't say that. Don't do it. Don't make. Please, no. Edit all of this out, or leave it in. Fuck it. Fuck that. Do not remake 4 Weddings and a Funeral, or any of that. Or actually, no, remake Love Actually, because it ignores the Iraq War for no reason. But but anyway, sorry.
Oh, don't mention Love Actually. It's such a bad film. No.
Yeah, honestly, not a fan.
Honestly, it's one of my guilty pleasures at Christmas. It's one of the 3 films I watch each year. It's Muppets Christmas Carol, The Holiday, Love Actually, because I'm a very basic person.
But you call it a guilty pleasure, then it makes sense. Because I don't have the nostalgia. I saw it for the first time last year, and I just could not stop cringing at all the cringy bits. And if you can enjoy it, and just if you enjoy it from the cringe, it's nice to watch. It stopped me from enjoying the film.
It's just Alan Rickman and the name's gone. Emma
Thompson.
Emma Thompson. That entire storyline is enough to redeem the entire film for me, just because of the scene. Yeah, with the songs playing.
Yes.
It's one of the most powerful moments in cinema, I would argue. It gets me every time.
Do you know what that song is?
It's Jodie Mitchell, isn't it?
It's Jodie Mitchell, both sides now, but it's specifically not the original version. It was actually a version that was released later, which is and the reason they do that is because that's on the CD that they give. He gives her.
Yeah.
It said so it's that, so it actually adds a whole. And it's it's hurting, even though this is what he did it. What I don't like about that is the way that it just suddenly heals afterwards with no fucking repercussions to Alan Rickman. It's just suddenly and now everything's fine because we've.
No, but I didn't think it healed. I thought at the end it kind of implied that it was still rocky, or they'd separated or something. Maybe I just really misinterpreted that film.
I mean, I saw it as, but if they separated it again, it never brings up that they just go, "Hey, And then that's the only way that you get a hey, and I think they hug, and after that everything's kind of, but it's not brought up whether they separate, whether he suffered any kind of consequences for being a massive tool.
Yeah, but that's also not unusual in the cinema.
Yeah. But then that's just not it. Like, they also fucking ignore the Iraq War. Like, this is exactly the same fucking time that happened, right? And it also fucking ignores, like, fucking, what's it called? Liam Neeson doing absolutely nothing in a film except saying to his son, yes, that's it, go get with this person, because that will heal all of your problems, right? That's how you get over your dead mum.
I must admit, I watched Love Actually as a kid, and I didn't know it was about the same time as the Iraq War, because I was also a kid who wasn't aware fully what's going on. So
I watched it last year and I didn't realise. I only know because of the iconic Sam Kelly review on Letterboxd.
Yes.
Can I actually read it? Because we already brought it up.
Yes.
And I think it always comes up in a conversation because many people say that was like the best review.
That is the best review on
the
I've
Letterboxd ever.
Yeah. It was great. But yeah, like the thing is though, you said it before, it's a guilty pleasure. Don't be guilty about it. You know? Like, there's, like, a lot of people unironically love that film. I think they're all wrong, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, you know?
That's true.
Really like a lot of films, you know?
I did last week slag off Call Me By Your Name for, like, a good 20 minutes. I feel like if I could do that, I could also stick to my gun. I like Love Actually, because it's just, it's not trying to be fancy, it's not trying to be smart, it's just trying to make you feel a bit of warmth inside your heart on Christmas. That's it.
Like, I may have said it's okay not to be guilty about it. That doesn't mean I won't slag it off. My God, that film goes on for fucking ages. There's no reason. Like, the bit as well with the fucking cards, right? The best thing that's come out of that film is that, and then the memes that have come from it where people are dropping the cards and it's got the things, like, you know, where fucking man from
also
Walking
the card
Dead
thing
outside.
is so overdone as your elections.
Oof.
Yeah, but that's because everyone tries to copy the original.
If I have an opportunity to say, the girl who did the Love Actually thing for her promotion, she was running for sustainability officer, and she wasted 40 pages of paper. I counted.
Are you okay? You sound like you're deflating.
I am. Like, it's like, yes.
I love that you counted. That's the best part of that.
Yeah, because immediately when I saw the pages, I was like, this is incredibly wasteful. And also, the election happened in March. It's not even a mood for referring to a Christmas film.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also referring to a film that I think is actively bad, but, like, that's fine. Don't worry, but yeah. Anyway, that's enough about Love Actually, which involves none of the things that we're talking about.
I already opened the review, so I might as well just read it.
Okay.
And as Sam Kelly wrote, did the Iraq War happen in the Love Actually cinematic universe? If so, does Natalie, by reviving the spirit and leadership of Hugh Grant's beleaguered Prime Minister, share some responsibility for toppling Saddam, destabilizing the region, and facilitating the rise of ISIS?
Yes.
Let's just absorb that.
Okay, I must admit,
fantastic.
As someone who is actively doing a degree that involves reading into stuff far too much in regards to films and books, sometimes I think we read into stuff far too much. I don't think Love Actually is setting out to make commentaries on the war. I don't think it's setting her for an entire different thing about it.
Like aside from that, right? Okay, like if we're getting back into this, because I will fucking talk about it. I get made to watch this every fucking year, so it's like, you know, this is a lot of, I need this, okay? But like at the same time, like Love Actually, it's like don't you find the relationship between Colin Firth's character and the Portuguese person that's in that, like, really weird? Like you know, like, in terms of, like, it just kind of, like, it's sort of like she just instantly falls in love with him, and it basically doesn't show her, like, becoming more like in love with him and stuff. It's just kind of assumed that she would be, just because she's a maid and that she's a woman and he's got a position of power, and then nothing is even spoken about that, especially in the time of Me Too and stuff. Like, you find that a little weird. Am I just kind of finding that a bit odd?
To be fair, I now start to realise I might have repressed that film. Because I literally saw it last year, and I don't remember most of the things you speak about.
I've watched this many times, and I hate it. So I get.
Yeah, but if you described it accurately, it really sounds like a not healthy power dynamic in a relationship.
No. And then the way that it solves it is that, like, the only way that this can be solved and is to get married. Right, which I think is a very fucking weird way to kind of, like, it goes, yes, they will get married, and the way that this will happen is we'll get everyone in the fucking world to just appear and be a massive stereotype around her, and then just, like, and then, you know, there's that, but I don't know. Maybe
I think Love Actually is very much like a Shakespearean comedy. It's got a lot of problematic things now, not half the plot doesn't make sense, and it's just about people falling in love and getting married.
But unlike a Shakespearean comedy, it will not age very well. Like, you know what I mean?
Have you seen some of Shakespeare's comedies?
Yes, and they keep getting remade every year, and it's fine. Love Actually will not have a remake that is
like Shakespeare
popular.
really lives.
Yeah.
Especially, I didn't even realise until I started watching University Challenge, and like a solid 1/5 of the questions is about Shakespeare. I swear to God.
I mean, I can't criticise because my laptop is currently propped up on my complete works of Shakespeare to make it the right height, so I feel like I can't drag the man too much because he is essentially at this point has been supporting my entire degree this year through supporting the laptop.
Yeah.
But
yes, and that is that is completely fine and acceptable, but Love Actually isn't. and you will never convince me otherwise. But
anyway, we should be getting back to what we're meant to be talking about.
And actually, I think it's going to be a very interesting point to make, because now we're going to talk about Moonlight, and we've been recording for like 50 minutes, and Moonlight is the first film in which the gay character is not white.
But
yes,
Hollywood is so white, and like gay films are so white. Like, let me get the statistic up because I wanna make sure I'm not misquoting it. But in the year that Moonlight came out and won all those Oscars, only 20% of LGBTQ plus characters were people of colour. 20%.
Oh, that's actually more than I would have guessed, I think.
Yeah, but that's because of that film as well. Remember, that's adding to it, so it's 20% of all the films.
Is that all of the films that were nominated for Oscars, or is that all films generally? Because if it's all films generally, that's really fucking difficult to count.
It's using GLAAD's test, like
right.
GLAAD, because they go through it and they mark it out each year.
Right.
So I think this is out of about 110-ish films, because they do it because they do test, like there's the Vito Russo test, which basically says that they have to actually have an impact on the plot and do stuff. So you know how, like in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, they had like the lesbian kiss at the end with nameless characters, and they were like, "We've represented people," and you're like, "No, you haven't. No, you have not. Like, get out." So it's like
tokenism. Who? We don't know her.
Yeah, I think just because if you like aggressively go, this is a thing, right, and we're putting this in just so we get to score some points and that hopefully we get some good articles written about us, which is an otherwise terrible film. Like all of those fucking Star Wars films that came out recently, just terrible. I have a lot of fucking them. Really?
Yes.
Sorry, which one specifically?
No, we've already ranted about Love Actually. We're staying on topic now. We can rant about Star Wars next week.
We're going to talk about Star Wars. It's probably going to come up at some point.
Yes.
But I can see your rage. Calm down. Next week you can have your rant, not this week.
No.
You've already had your Love Actually rant.
I'll get over it eventually. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'll
cry myself to sleep.
Coming back to Moonlight, what I found unsettling, it was finally some not white representation of gay people.
Yeah.
But I don't like the film because it shows those 3 time points, and I can't understand the continuity of the character. And maybe that's because it's a very different experience from my life experience. But if it's meant to represent very unique perspective, you need to tell the story so I can understand. That's the whole point, to not be in front of a mirror, have a window inside as an insight into someone else's life. And I watched it, and I did not understand it.
So, in terms of like having chapters, I think it's fair enough to say that most people don't have like a huge screen that says chapter 1 appearing at the beginning of their life and then chapter 2 later. But like, I think it was really good the way they did that, because it kind of shows like the different struggles that came at different points in their life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just like, if it was like 3 chapters and they were like each week, you know, it was like, let's say this whole thing took over the course of this is someone's life, right? This is stuff that happens over the course of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think it did a really good job of examining it, like, all of the issues that they faced at kind of like various points throughout their life. Like, I have my main problem with the film is that it was too long, but that is always my criticism with everything. So like, you know, that's you know, like, I mean, like, I think almost all films could be better if you just removed about 10% to 25% of the film.
But
you know?
maybe the film needed more time. I mean, I never mind long films. I like the structure because it's creative to just do those short little episodes and chapters. But you need to write the script in such a way that kind of explains the transition, because I like guess that he kind of just needed to adapt to his culture, to his community, and be more like straight presenting and gang, but also he's not that repressed as a gay man, and it's a bit too complex of a mentality for me to be confident in my guess about it.
No, I was going to say, I think because the 3 chapters, it's almost his interactions with other people. So, like, the 3 chapters kind of almost hit up with, like, where he's got important moments that are to do with other people rather than just himself. So it's almost not just about being, like, an individual. It's about your connections to others and whether they, like, support you, whether they look after you, whether, like, you have, like, sexual attraction. So I thought the structure was very well done, because it's, like, when you're friends with people, when you know people, you only see the moments of their life that you're with them or they tell you about. But this film kind of really captures that. It's been like, you're going to see these 3 moments that are crucial for this character, and you're not going to see everything else because you don't know everything always about what happens to people. People don't tell you everything. You don't always see people after time. So I thought the way it captured that almost very realistically, I really liked that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to hardcore. I was going to say something similar to that, but I also like really liked the way that, like, you know, you said he wasn't that oppressed. I'd say that he was quite oppressed in that film, like massively. The thing is just like, you know, like, I think it did a really good way of like showing like just bits of someone's life, and like not everyone's life fits to plot points. Do you know what I mean? It's not like and then this thing happened and then everything was fine. You know, like, or like and then this thing happened and then things were bad. You know, it's like life is messier than that, and like you know, not every single day people have like horrific attacks on their sexuality for no reason. You know what I mean? Like that does happen, but like I think the fact that it made it smaller made it more real. You know what I mean? It made it kind of a bit more, like, it made you feel the bits of homophobia, like, way more, because you just, most of the time it's just kind of fine, and then suddenly, bam, it just kind of happens. And I thought it was an absolutely beautiful look into this person's life. You know, it was just stunning. It was just, it almost felt like a dance, you know, through this whole thing. It was just this really kind of rhythmic, strange kind of, but also kind of, it was mysterious. It was kind of, you know, but incredibly moving. I found it very powerful, and I fucking loved that film.
And I also think it avoids that thing that a lot of, unfortunately, LGBT cinema does. It's like, oh, look, like, they're oppressed. We're going to show you the really shit parts of being gay, being LGBT, with none of the respite. You're only going to see the real shitty parts of this person's life. You're only going to see the real shitty moments, and you're going to watch them just suffer. And you don't get to see the rest of the life, because while, like, you do suffer, you don't suffer every moment of every day. There's going to be, you'd hope, this respite in people's lives where they can have like a moment of just, even if it's just sitting in a diner, even if it's just like being in a car, where it's just, you can just respite from everything.
Yeah, but that's actually not what I was trying to say, because he was oppressed, obviously. Yeah. It's hard to not get oppressed in this world as a queer person. But what I meant is that he didn't seem repressed. So, like, some people would be resilient to the discrimination and still be themselves, still feel comfortable. And I couldn't even feel it out if he accepted his gayness or not. You know? That's what I wanted to take from the last chapter, how did he feel about his identity. And I know that life isn't like that, but film is like that. Film is a way of telling a story. And there was a story, and I still think I didn't hear the full story. And I didn't want a happy ending. I just wanted to understand the story just as it is.
I think it's also like the film was much more, it was about his life rather than him just being gay. You know what I mean? Like I'd say that him being gay was a part of the story, you know, but so is him being black, but also so with him doing all these sorts of things. It was an intersection between lots of things. It doesn't have to just be about him being gay. It doesn't have to just be about that. And in fact, I quite liked that. You know, just because, like, you know, it's also like at the end, he doesn't necessarily have to give you the answer about how he felt about being gay. You know, I think, you know, a lot of people don't have to say what they feel about, you know, the people they love or like how they feel about things. You know, it's a much more complicated question than that. I thought it like, I personally found it like incredibly messy, but in a good way, you know, in a way that made it feel real. Like I highly, like, I don't know exactly like how the film came to be written or anything like that, so I'm not gonna, but like it feels like so real. It feels like you're almost there. You can almost like smell the air around him and fucking like feel the sunlight on your face, you know, as they're walking around.
That's
it's
true. Yeah,
so,
that's kind of why I wanted to fully understand it, because as you said, like there are many plots in that film, and being a black gay person is completely different from being a white gay person. So it's also it also was intersecting, and I kind of just wanted to be told more about just having such identity in that film, because it's so foreign to me.
And I want to know what happened in the Voodoo Castle in fucking the True Detective, you know what I mean? But like it's messy, so you never fucking find out these things, you know what I mean? So I'm saying, even though you don't find out these things, it's like you've always got more questions. I'm saying it like you know, like I like there's gonna be like, if you followed one person for their entire life and you had questions at the beginning of their life that may never become answered by the end of it, you know, maybe they've never quite finished dealing with things, they never quite finished feeling things in a certain way. Like I thought the film was amazing.
I think what you're almost saying is that you want more films with this particular intersectional combination, because it is such, because it's like you get, again, because a lot of the representation is white gays, and it's like especially on TV they're often like middle class and stuff, so it's like there's so many different ways of being and so many different types of people that if you go like even with this like podcast we've covered gay films, there's so many different types of gay films and there's so many different people represented, but even then that's only a small percentage of the entire world's population. If it's like meant to be like 1 in 10 are gay, there's no way the films we talked about have covered every single one of those persons. Like Moonlight, because it shows African Americans, it shows like what's it like living in like the hoods in like poorer areas, and like we have a single mum who's like got drug problems. Like that's such a specific example, but there's such a gap between like Moonlight and Pride. They're not going to correlate in the same world, but there's such. So basically, if Hollywood is listening, we want more intersectional gay films, please.
Yeah, because I'm not saying it's a bad film.
You did. Like, we can literally rewind and hear, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is, like...
She's allowed to change
her
mind.
It was just not the best, and I will never call it one of my favourite films. Especially, like, it leaves me unsettled because I have so many questions. And sometimes films are open-ended, and they pose questions, and I'm fine with it, but this one just leaves me with just, like, I don't think the story was told properly.
I mean, you could argue the same thing about Twin Peaks. I do not want them to make a 4th season, especially if it's not directed by David Lynch, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, things have questions, they leave them open. There's always so much more that you want to hear about things, you know? And I think, arguably, that says so much about, like, how they characterized and told the story that you do want to learn more, and you do want to find out more, you know? And, like, some things do, you know, some things do feel like they need answers and stuff. I just... Like I you know, there's so much ambiguity in that film. You know, it's seemingly intentionally mysterious in a lot of ways. And I thought it was, I really liked it. You know, like I'm not. I think it's got 100 on Metacritic. I wouldn't give it 100 out of 100. You know, I'd give it. You know, I wouldn't give it 100. I'm not saying it's the best film ever made ever, and nothing will ever come close. Which is what 100 out of 100 average mark by
Should
critics
yeah.
says. But like Pride only has 80, I think, and I enjoyed Pride more. I think, but yeah. Anyway, so let's sorry.
I was going to say it's because there's so many different films, and there's a lot of films that cater for certain audiences, and LGBT has very limited. I was going to say buffet for catering, but I feel like I'm going to be crossing too many metaphors if I keep going down this route. But like you're not going to like every film, and everyone's not going to like produce every films. But that's why I think it's important we discuss all these films, because some of the films that are like you won't like, and it's natural. But we need more LGBT cinema so that everyone can at least find one film they really like or one film that represents them. I'm going to keep just going back to this, but I guess we've rambled on so long, and I feel like we're not.
I just noticed what time is it?
Yeah, we're not going to get more profound than this. I think we've used our brain cells for the day. So does anyone have any closing remarks?
I mean, I think we could.
I would have an honourable mention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a recommendation for our viewers, because I also don't think you have seen the film, but it's on Netflix. It's called Your Name in Great Harain. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but it's a Taiwanese film about two boys, and not only is it a non-English speaking cinema on Netflix, it's available on Netflix, so you have no excuses, people. And it's really good. It's quite long, so Jack, you have been warned, but yeah, I really like the film, and it's quite cute. It's well acted, and and also just like different because it's a different experience. And we have to remember that while in the UK and the US, it's actually quite like getting slowly quite comfortable to be queer, most of the world is still not still not friendly. And we need to at least hear those stories and be aware of what it's like somewhere else.
I haven't seen the film, so I can't, comment. But yeah, you're right. We do need to, listen to more voices and stuff. I was gonna say, I mean, I need to watch more Iranian cinema. I haven't seen that many films from Iran, but the ones I have seen, technically. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night was nominated for a BAFTA for Best British Film, I think, because it was I think so. I might be wrong in that, or, but it was because it was funded by British people. But I'm not exactly sure where it was filmed and stuff. But there's that, and then Under the Shadow, which I think but that is Iranian. That is fantastic and stuff, and it's just I think there needs to be a kind of way of introducing to more films just randomly. If you just go, I just want to look at Iranian films though as well. It's there's so many, there's African cinema, there's Ugandan, Nollywood, Nigerian films. I have watched a few of those, and honestly, I didn't quite get it. Just having more stories from more people, I think is just always going to be a good thing.
Yeah, and also even different approaches to shooting a film, because there are very subtle but noticeable differences in between different countries' cinemas, and I really like to I usually can't even describe the differences, but I can feel the different feel of international cinema, and it's very interesting to watch how differently you can shoot film.
Yeah. I guess, listeners, if you're listening and you have films you want to recommend to us, we will always take recommendations, because even when it comes to
on Instagram,
scheduling,
Facebook, Anchor,
just anywhere, hit us up with films you like or films that you think we haven't mentioned and stuff. But I guess we should round up for this week, and we'll continue next week because we are only on the second letter of LGBT. So, wait.
We also did second letter last week as well. Fucking, it says a lot.
Yeah.
About over-representation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's actually a reflection of what Hollywood is like.
Yeah.
It is over-represented with gay men.
Hopefully in the future this podcast could do one where it's all properly spaced out and representation is equal. But
yeah, one day we'll also do a podcast where we plan it out properly.
So thank you guys for all listening. Tune in again next week when we'll continue our rambling and talking about LGBT cinema. I want to thank you both for coming on and rambling again with me and letting me ramble.
Thank you for inviting us.
And so, yes, if you want to get in contact with anything we've said or want to recommend us, find us at Film Unit on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, or email us at filmunit@sheffield.ac.uk. And again, thank you for listening and have a great week.
It's been emotional.
Bye.
This week's episode was hosted by Jack Denny, Morgan Westwood-Cook, and Asia Stepaniak. It was edited and produced by Asia Stepaniak. Our editor-in-chief is Gwynnie Naylor. Graphics for the podcast were designed by Imogen Self. Film Unit is a volunteer-run cinema in the University of Sheffield Students' Union. You can learn more about our filmunit.org.uk or our social media channels at Film Unit.